Mackenzie Johnston with Tri-State Livestock News discussing issues facing the cattle industry and how to find common ground and real solutions so fair cattle markets can be achieved. Today we have the honor of speaking with Senator Deb Fischer of Nebraska. Senator Fischer, I want to thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. What do you feel are the major issues standing in the way of fair cattle markets today?
Well, as you know, the industry's really been hit hard by the COVID crisis. That follows on the Holcomb fire that happened about a year ago. I'm a cattle producer, cow-calf family ranch, and we fully understand that the markets cycle. They always do. They cycle. But yet, we want to make sure that the supply chain is strong, that it's healthy, that it's fair to everyone in that chain. And right now, I think we're seeing it especially highlighted during this period, that cow-calf producers, that feedlots are really not seeing the benefits that the packers do, and are not seeing the benefits of what the grocery stores are charging for our product. That needs to be looked into.
There has been numerous support from leaders such as yourself for the Department of Justice to investigate potential illegal practices by meat packers. Our president has even stepped up to the plate and requested that the meatpacking industry be investigated by the DOJ. What do you feel will come of this investigation if it actually occurs?
I just want to be able to get some answers. I want to be able to have transparency in this entire process. For maybe 6 weeks now ago, I talked to our state attorney general, Doug Peterson, about it. I visited with, of course, a number of my colleagues in March about it, and there is momentum now. I was happy that our Nebraska AG signed on with a number of other states, attorneys general, to be able to urge DOJ to do an investigation. I was really, really pleased to lead a letter asking for the DOJ to do an investigation. But about a month ago, I reached out to the USDA, to Secretary Perdue, to ask that they would include the recent activities we're seeing in their ongoing investigation that they're doing of the Holcomb fire. And the next day they agreed to do that because I felt maybe we'd get some information sooner. So there's different fronts that we're all looking at, trying to get to answers and really make it more transparent, the entire supply chain, the process.
What kind of timeline are we looking at with this DOJ investigation?
I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know. They have not said they're going to do an investigation yet. That's why I think it's important that we have pressure coming from the states and also pressure coming from the Senate. We have a bipartisan group here in the Senate of senators, Republicans and Democrats, which is always good to be able to build that coalition. And hopefully we're going to continue to push and see some action.
How do we create more competition within our cattle markets today?
How do we create more competition within the cattle markets? I'm from Nebraska, and we always brag that Nebraska beef is best. And I know your paper covers my region of the country. We're the heartland. We know what it means to work hard, to take pride in our work, to take pride in the fact that we're offering a safe and healthy product to this country's consumers, and hopefully to continue to export around the world. I think if we're going to see a healthy market and maintain a healthy market, again, throughout the entire supply chain, we need to be able to work together. We need to be able to have the same goals, and I go back to the fact that we need to be able to have transparency and really know how prices are determined. Our beef can compete with anybody's, whether it's within this country or with the world. And we just want to be able to have a fair system out there.
There's been a lot of talk around negotiated cash trade, implementing more negotiated cash. So Senator John Tester and Chuck Grassley proposed a bill requiring 50% negotiated cash trade by processing plants. Do you feel this bill would improve competition within our cattle markets?
You know, I'm glad Senator Grassley introduced it. I think it's important that we offer different options out there on how we're going to address the crisis, and I view this as a crisis, how we're going to address this. So I am glad that he introduced it. I'm working on some different options that are out there. When I look at his goal of the 50%, I think that's good. Nebraska's already over 30. Most of the other states aren't even in double digits. So we're over 30 right now. So I'm knocking around some other ideas on maybe how we can work with Senator Grassley on his bill to really take into account and recognize the fact that each state is starting from a different place on this.
What are you hearing from your constituents, these folks out here in the heartland that are producers that are facing incredibly tough times at this time?
Stress, worry. As I said, we've been seeing low prices for quite a while now. Nebraska went through some really devastating weather last year. In my part of the state, in the Nebraska Sandhills, we're very wet. We're blessed with great groundwater, but it's just been very, very wet, which not just affects our cattle, it affects our roads and everything else. But we're dependent upon sub-irrigated meadows, and when you can't get in to put up hay, obviously that adds to your costs then, and you have to make tough decisions. So for my neighbors, when you say specifically neighbors, that's who I think of, my ranching neighbors. But in Nebraska, we are a state that really has families all along this supply chain, from cow-calf producers, seed stock, the feeders, and we do have packing plants in the state as well. I want to make sure all of us are strong. I want to make sure that everybody in that supply chain is being compensated for the product that they're producing.
You mentioned that cattle producers have been facing tough times for a few years now. This is due to catastrophic weather events, trade wars that we've been dealing with, rising input costs. And we have been seeing packer consolidation for years now. And we've been seeing fundamentals within our industry failing for a while now. Why has it taken this COVID-19 pandemic? Why has it taken this big event to bring everything to light and for things to finally be addressed? Why did things have to get this bad before they were addressed?
Well, I think you said it. You know, it's a big event. COVID-19 is a big event, and it has brought this to light. It's brought a lot of things to light, but it has put a focus on this. We have more people who are interested in the issue now. And we have momentum, I think, going forward. You know, one of my challenges is to try and keep that momentum. Anybody in this industry, anybody in this business has recognized these problems forever. My husband and I have been married over 40 years. I fell in love with a rancher, married a rancher, and that is our life. And there has always been an understanding that these issues are out there, but sometimes it takes a big event like COVID-19 to have everything and different segments of the industry come together to try and address it.
If for some reason we are not able to implement substantial solutions to fix these cattle markets to achieve fair cattle markets, and we continue to go down this dark path, what do you see happening to the independent cattle producer out here?
I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be tough. The cattle industry, we're very, very proud of our independence. We enjoy what we do. We enjoy being able to make our decisions on our own and how those decisions affect our families. So I think that's going to be tough in the future. I've reached out to Senator Mike Lee, who chairs a Senate Judiciary Committee subcommittee on antitrust, and I've reached out to him to hold a hearing on the packers. I just believe that the more light we can shine on this, the more information that we can gather will be a good thing.
In one sentence, what does the cattle industry need most right now?
We have such a wonderful way of life, but as any family business in agriculture, there's always risk involved. So what we would need, but what would be very, very difficult when you look at weather, when you look at markets, when you just look at family dynamics, what the one thing we would need would be certainty. And I think this would be a vital link in that road to providing cattle producers with more certainty.
What can individuals do to help bring about changes? All your constituents out here, the ranchers, what can we do in order to help bring about these changes that the industry needs?
I've told ag producers since I was a state senator, and now as United States Senator for over 8 years, that we need to be better messengers. And it's being messengers, not just to elected officials. It's being good messengers to your neighbors. Even in rural communities, there is a growing disconnect between people who live on the land, make their living off the land, and maybe people who live in the nearest town. There's certainly a big growing disconnect between rural America and urban America. To be able to message that we care for our resources, we care for our land, we care for our water. After all, we live there, and we care for our livestock. That's a message that we need to continue to tell our neighbors near and far.
With that, do you have any closing statements you would like to make regarding these cattle markets and everything that the cattle industry is facing?
Well, I just know that people are being hit hard by the crisis. I know that they have a lot of questions. The impact on my state is tremendous because we're seeing cattle, pork, and ethanol that are being hit. These are economic engines for the state of Nebraska, and when ag is suffering, every Nebraskan suffers because it does affect our economy. It does affect our state's budget, which means it affects every Nebraskan. So it is important that we try and solve some of these issues that are out there.
With that, Senator Fischer, I want to thank you for taking time to speak with us today.